There were so many horseless carriages outside the Suicide Club that Jeremy Pantomile found himself pushing between lamp-black stained running boards, so that to his horror his trousers became blemished below the knee. He clicked his fingers at the doorman and shouted, "Gentlemen, find me a passage between these smoking wrecks or I'll have you cashiered." Gentleman Smythe adjusted his turban, glanced this way and that, then descended to street level. "My apologies, sir. There is talk of one of our explorers returning from furthest Oriental reaches. It seems news has spread." "Just find me a way in, fellow. Then find me new trousers. I take a 34-inch waist." Gentleman used his rear to nudge aside one of the horseless carriages, allowing Jeremy to squeeze through, then led him up the steps and inside the great marble edifice that was the hall of Bedward's house, Chancery Lane. Jeremy hurried into an antechamber, not wanting any of his peers to see his embarrassment. Gentleman followed. "I will go at once to the trousery," the doorman said, "then return with a fresh garment." "What colour, sir?" "Same as these. And don't go, run." Gentleman bowed. Jeremy waited, his annoyance fading as the sounds and smells of the Suicide Club calmed his mind. This was home. Here he could be at peace, be free of the noise and stink of London, and here he could exercise his talents in the service of his fellow men. Damn, that Seekish fellow was taking his time. At last, as the belladonna clock struck 9, and then a few seconds later the great Tibetan dinner gong, Gentleman returned. Jeremy whipped off his trousers, adjusted his leather undergarment, then pulled on the clean trousers. "Excellent," he said, "though they smell of lavender." "We use it to drive away moon moths," Gentleman explained. "What's on the menu tonight?" "A divilled tartar of yak, sir." Jeremy departed, hurrying up the stairs that led to the dining room. Before entering, he checked his appearance in the mirror held up by the statue of Turkman High, retrieved from the ruins of Constantinople by Faraday Leamington. Aha! Tall, dark-eyed, black hair slicked down, a subtle moustache on his upper lip. No wonder the girls loved him. He walked into the dining room and at once saw several of his associates seated at a pentagonal table, one chair free. He strode forward. "Friends," he said, allowing a servant to pull back the vacant seat. "You are a minute late," said Velvein Orchard-Tide, examining the gold chronospiel that hung from his waistcoat spigot. "An unpleasantness outside the building," Jeremy explained, "caused by news of some import. Also, I believe." Cornucope Weatherby sat on his left. "Faraday Leamington, by all accounts," the old man said. Jeremy did not feel inclined to forgive the explorer Leamington his fame. "Damn well spoiled my trousers," he said. "I'll be billing the fellow regardless of how much he's lionized when he returns." "If he returns," Velvein remarked. "There is no definite word." Jeremy glanced at the other two diners, Sir Hoseley Fane, white-bearded treasurer of the Suicide Club, and Lord Blackenor of Highgate, the secretary. He enjoyed exalted company tonight. "Frankly," he said, lighting a cigaroon, "I'm getting rather tired of dear Leamington's comings and goings. Can't we find a higher calling than shooting exotic animals and returning them to London?" A few embarrassed titters rose from the table. Sir Hoseley sniffed, then said, "What did you have in mind, mon ami?" "Oh, just something better, I suppose." "Then you must think of something," said Velvein, glancing again at his chronospiel. "Where is that soup, eh? It is Arctic onion, and if you do not bring it in soon, it will go warm." "This place goes to hell if Faraday's around," Jeremy muttered. "It's just not good enough." "Thank you." Okay, we're going to go over to Susan now, Susan Beetlestone, and Susan is going to read for us from her work, The Curse of Sekhmet. Over to you, Susan.
Hello, I'm going to read you an extract from The Curse of Sekhmet, which is a novel in which an antiquities dealer has been murdered, and the central character, who is haunted by ancient Egyptian gods, Matilda Tillman, has been arrested on suspicion of stealing a mummified cat from the antiquities dealer's shop by Inspector Freeman. Freeman was looking forward to a bit of quiet and an early night, all sort of a curry and TV now forgotten. It had been a very long day and he'd driven through it mostly fueled by coffee, but that was wearing off and he just wanted to sleep. Maybe a ham sandwich first if he had the energy to make one and then chew it. The tiredness was why he did not notice what was going on at first. Suddenly he was knee-deep in hostile cats. There were half a dozen of them, tails erect, spitting at him. He took a leap backwards, swearing. The cats advanced on him, not spitting anymore, but waving their tails in a jerky, aggressive manner. He backed off again, and they kept coming. There was a black cat, a tabby, 2 gingers, and 1 black and white, all of them furious at him. He backed off further and turned down a side street which took him out of his way, but he knew he could circle back a little way along. The cat stood at the end of the street he had turned into, watching him. When he got to his turning, he hesitated for a moment, seeing a cat jump down from a wall ahead. Bert laughed at himself for his stupidity and walked on. At least a dozen other cats appeared, leaping from walls, creeping out of doorways, and all of them turned in his direction. He kept on walking, and the back of his neck tingling, the palms of his hands sweating. When they all ganged together on the pavement ahead, he crossed the road. So did they. He tried again, and they followed. He was only a couple of metres away from them now, and they were all looking at him, waving their tails like angry flags. Then he panicked, imagining the other cats creeping up behind him, and he would soon be covered in yowling felines, scratching and clawing. Turning quickly, he was so relieved to see nothing there that he began to run. Just before he reached the end of the street, he slowed to a walk, humiliated by his own sense of panic. The original cats were waiting for him with a few newcomers on the pavement to the left. He turned right into the feline-free zone. And it occurred to him, he was being herded by cats. Every side street had its sentinel cat. He was pushed on, further out of his way. Were they trying to guide him somewhere, or keep him from going to a particular place? If the latter, they could have just let him go on his way and he'd be home already, with his sandwich and perhaps a cup of tea. But maybe they did not know that. Maybe it was something on his usual way home. He was being pushed back towards the police station and hardly relished the idea of being chased in through the front door by every single cat in town. Turning back, he stood his ground, facing them. They marched in a great phalanx towards him. A moment later the cat stopped, hesitated, began to mill around uncertainly. Good, he thought, little blighters, got them spooked. But it was not him. Footsteps sounded on the pavement behind him. The cats scattered and vanished. Warily he turned to find Tillman heading towards him. She gave him a grim smile, and he felt why the cats had fled. A great dark goddess walked behind her, whose hot breath blew in his face. He almost ran away too, but the impression collapsed, and he only saw a small, determined woman set on some mission. "Who let you out?" he demanded to know, expecting some expensive lawyer to be named as the culprit. "I don't know," she said, "but there's somewhere I have to go. Are you coming?" She walked straight past him. He tried to come up with something sensible to say, but he glimpsed Cat's eyes glowing in the shadows all around and jogged a few paces to catch up with her. "Where are we going?" "We'll know when we get there."
Now, Carl, I notice you're sitting in front of the Pan-African flag.
Yes, I am.
I believe that may have some relation to your poems.
I suppose, yes, I suppose. But it just seemed a nice background. My son gave it to me.
Cool. Now then, you're going to read us 3 of your marvellous poems.
Yes.
All right.
There's one that's in 2 parts and then another 2, very short. The first one is called Juju. Leather thong, black as my skin, suspends you on my breast like a lover. Heal me, teach me, fuse your green metal into my ribs, smuggle your abstract form into the marrow, darkening its soft substance with the heat of your light. I accept you. I have chosen you. The fierce gesture of my words acknowledges our divine and secret meeting. And its sister poem is called Loa, L-O-A. Born in darkness, scratching into light, possessor of souls, heart of the stone, mother of the soil, father of air, growth of decay is your beauty, taken from all, given to all, from the lips of the dying to the lungs of the newborn. You infuse each atom, the only quantum event, the only seat of spirits. Next one's called Shoemaking, Jamaica 54. I can see you in the musty gloom of candlelight, struggling with young fingers to emulate your father's skillful work. His hands, dark and wrinkled like old bark, seem almost delicate as he guides a needle through sticky shoe flesh. The hemp thread, slicked with beeswax, dips out its hole like a wire worm, till pulled taut a quivering bowstring. You try to copy, but the shoe is tough. Fear of failure numbs your fingers, makes you push harder, almost staking your thumb. 2 adult fingers, pads the color of mango, tug the needle clear. A grunt of encouragement extinguishes embarrassment as you fumble on, seeking approval from a father close by, but as distant as the skies. And my last one is about a particularly potent form of rum. And it's called Lay and Nephew. It smells of warmth. It smells of freedom and slavery. It smells of loud conversation. It smells of the kisses of strangers. It smells of dancing and parties. It smells of music and lights. It smells of cane hacked in fields. It smells of sacred darkness. It smells of weddings and feasts. It smells of friends. It smells of family. It smells of drunken resignation. It smells of empty streets. It smells of moonlight and shadows. It smells of curses and blessings. It smells of home. There you go.
Thank you, Carl. Now, I believe you're going to read to us a piece of flash fiction.
It is a piece of flash fiction.
Called Touch and Go.
It is. It's based on a story of something that really happened a long time ago in 1739, I believe. Anyway,
in Shrewsbury.
In Shrewsbury,
yes.
At St Mary's. Anyway, let me read the story, and if you want anything after it, I'll fill in.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Touch and Go. Will you look at that? Necks craning like geese, the multitude gathering in St Mary's churchyard gazes towards heaven. Dark against the February sky, like a spider on a line, a minute figure approaches the spire's pinnacle. Here comes young Cadman, hopping on his sky rope up from Gay Meadow. Cadman, madman, no good'll come of it, tin a natural. Jed Nethercott ignores comments from the crowd. Worming his way in malodorous silence, he slips his fingers into another fat pocket. What a profitable dog hanging this has proved to be. A burst of clapping, a mighty cheer, and Jed squints up in time to see Spider Lad leap and cling to the church spire. Dangling from the weather vane with one hand, the hero flourishes his hat, acknowledging his fans below. Safe at last. No, mother, there's more to come, just you watch. I've seen him do this before, rope's too tight. The dipper gawps at the steeplejack, clad in his wooden breastplate. Cadman brandishes a final salute to the cheering throng before taking to the rope. A push with his feet, and he skims, hurtles, head first, towards the seven. The rope snaps, recoils, the mob surges. Jed grabs for his purse. What purse?
Thank you, Jean. So that piece is based on a real event.
A real event. Robert Cadman was a steeplejack, and he didn't just confine his activities to St. Mary's. He performed in many places around the country, but his trick was to string a kind of tight rope to the church steeple, to a field somewhere alongside, and he would climb up the rope, rope walking, and then skim downwards. Unfortunately, on this occasion, on a cold February morning in 1739, the rope was too tight and it snapped, and that was the end of him. He was aged 28 and he's buried in St. Mary's churchyard.
Brilliant. Thank you, Jean. Very kind of you. Thank you very much. Okay, Steve Brotherton. Steve, we know that your first novel is out in 3 months' time. It's called Fractures, Dreams and Second Chances. So congratulations on that. But we know you're going to read from a piece called Finding Alfie and Archie.
This is the opening extract from a current work in progress, and that work's called Finding Alfie and Archie. Hello, said a woman's voice. I sat up and rubbed my eyes. She was standing by the bedroom door. She had jet black hair and was wearing a navy blue trouser suit and red pixie boots. Her translucent skin looked like it had been buffed to a high shine and was reflecting the light from the bedside lamp back into the room. I tried to move, but my arms and legs felt like they'd been superglued to the mattress. Who are you? I said. What are you doing in my house? I'm not going to hurt you, Alfie. I have a message from Archie. She started taking down the 3 framed pictures from the wall in front of me. Me, Dad and Archie sitting on a coastal path wall in Dawlish Warren, the summer before Dad died, the only picture I had of the 3 of us together. Me and Mom posing in a hotel dining room in Shanklin on the Isle of Wight. We'd just had breakfast. Mom had had smoked haddock and 2 poached eggs. Dad and Mom, when they were courting, arms around each other, Mom giggling, Dad's puffy eyes showing he'd had a drink, the rest of their lives ahead of them. Be careful with those, I said. I will, she said. I know how precious they are to you. She put the last of the pictures on the oak tall boy and placed her lips against the wall. We're ready to begin, she said. Bang. A chasm opened up in the plaster and yawned its way to the skirting boards, the door frame and the edge of the ceiling. What the hell is that? I said, trying in vain to peel my body off the mattress. She floated over to me and started massaging my right temple, her chocolate brown irises acting as a magnet and drawing my attention. I've been watching over you for a long time, Alfie. I'm going to help you understand. She clicked her fingers. A mercury-coloured liquid, sparkling with electric charge, bubbled to the surface of the chasm, flowed over the ragged edges and covered the full length of my bedroom wall. You can get up now, she said. I tried to move my legs again. This time they came free. I rolled to a sitting position and then stood up. The room rocked from side to side. Get your balance, she said, putting a hand on my arm, the giddiness washing away as soon as she touched me. I looked again at the wall. Ripples of mercury were tapping against each other, sending sparks of blue electric charge pinging from its surface. I walked over to the torn plaster. Touch it, she said. I dipped my right hand in the liquid. It felt like hot sand. I pulled my hand out. It was bone dry. I've never seen anything like it, I said. She guided me back to the bed. Sit down, she said. I dropped onto the mattress and she knelt in front of me. I'm here to answer your questions, Alfie. I looked around the room, half expecting to see Archie grinning at me from the shadows. You've spoken to him, I said. She nodded. That's impossible, I said. This is a sick joke. I tried to stand, but my bare feet slipped on the nylon carpet and I fell back on the bed. Trust me, she whispered in my right ear. Trust me.
Andy, how are you today?
Hiya, Steve. I'm good.
Okay, so you, as all of us at the Writers Lab know, are working on a really, really interesting piece based in World War One. This is research that you've done, that you've written up and created into prose form, and it's called "The Man Who Saved a Town." Can you just, in 30 seconds, just tell us who this man was?
Yes, Steve. I included that in the piece, so I'll just go for it.
Okay, right, read away then.
Okay. So 9 out of 10 British soldiers who fought in World War One came home. And I've written a biography about one of them, Leo Norbury Murphy. He saved a town in France from a German bombardment and was awarded the Croix de Guerre and the Médaille Militaire by a grateful French nation. So we pick up the story after the First World War had ended, and Leo and his young French wife Emilie moved to Ypres in Belgium and soon set up several businesses, most notably the British Touring and Information Bureau, based in the centre of Ypres, providing guided tours around the battlefields of the Ypres salient. Veterans, widows and relatives would depart from Victoria Station in London by train to Dover. From Dover, they would take the ferry to Ostend, where Leo would meet them with a fleet of luxury coaches. They would then commence an organised tour of the World War I battlefields in France, Holland and Belgium, with hotel and transport provided. Leo also established the Ypres Salient Museum in the old meat market in the centre of the town, and Emilie opened a handmade lace shop opposite. Visitors to the museum would be guided over to the lace shop once they had finished viewing the museum exhibits. Leo spoke 6 languages and was a fellow of the Institute of Linguists. Visitors included veterans from the defeated German army. Leo recalled one visitor in particular in the summer of 1929, General Otto von Hugel, who was in charge of the German forces in Ypres from 1914 to 1916. Leo told one journalist, "They even tried to engage me in conversation about the rights and wrongs of the war. Old General von Hugel, who loosed off the first gas attack against Ypres, was down here for quite an hour the other day, blathering away. Then he sailed off to attend the unveiling of our 20th Division Memorial at Longermark. Utterly impenitent, the whole bunch of them. Signed the visitor's book with a flourish, but I've got a special one for them." Leo himself was gassed twice during the war and suffered breathing problems as a result for the rest of his life. When the tourist season closed, during the winter months, Leo worked as an electrician and sold appliances from his premises in the Grand Place, advertising his services in the local Flemish newspapers. Following the outbreak of the Second World War, Leo was advised by the British Embassy that the invading Germans would learn he had served in the intelligence corps, and the family could therefore be expected to be deported as slave labour to Germany. The family fled to England with just a suitcase each. Leo's eldest son, Francis, recalled they were met by a reception committee in Dover. "Welcome to the UK. We are here to help the people escaping. We have a small amount of pocket money and a list of accommodation and suitable jobs. Now, are you Dutch? No. Are you Belgian? No. Well, you must be French. No, we are British. Oh, sorry, we've got nothing for you. We're here to help the foreigners." Leo had already managed to move part of his collection to England, and in 1940 established a new museum at Gloucester Place in Brighton, charging an admission of £1 for adults sixpence for children and half-price entry to members of the armed forces. What remained of the collection in Ypres disappeared during the German occupation. In Brighton, Leo and his collection were not successful. The authorities requisitioned the building where he'd installed his war exhibition, and the collection was stored in a warehouse and his daughter Andre's small terrace house, never to be exhibited again. Leo was subsequently declared bankrupt. In 1946, Leo and his family returned to Belgium following the end of the Second World War, only to find his house had been occupied by a former neighbour who informed him that under Belgian law, he had to give 1 year's notice before the family could move back in. All the furniture had been removed. The piano was found in the town theatre, a leather armchair in the mayor's office, and 2 large baskets of lace in the town hall. Leo was unable to restart his museum as there was little interest in World War I following the events of 1939 to 1945. Instead, Leo and his wife Emilie established a business selling lace and pinwork. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Andy. Andy, we've just got 30 seconds. I know that you have really been helped and encouraged by the Writers' Lab. Could you just tell us how much that encouragement has meant to you?
Yeah, it's meant a lot actually, because I came across this guy back in, I think, 1989 when I was visiting a town called Bethune, and I'd sort of put bits and pieces together, but what the lab did for me was motivate me, but also give me ideas. For instance, to document as part of this book the journey I'd been on and how I'd put together the different aspects of his life. So yeah, apart from being a really nice social meet up every couple of weeks, it's definitely helped me get through the biography and complete it.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Andy. That's really great. Thank you very much.
So this is the beginning of her epic story. Ariadne. Clotho throws her spindle, dropping a twist, descending into the dark depths of my desolate soul, gathering barren dust into fibres of my allotted cut. She draws me out, seed to sliver, trembling in her hand, feeling the fallow down of my naivety spiral tight, taut to the lessons of life. Mother thread, I hang, soaked in blood, twisted by vine, honey-dipped glistening lies, a sticky suffering, casting my trope, a mistress of winding ground, awaiting the crescent blade of Atropos. My stomach lurches like a maiden voyage, sea smashes against an unknown shore. Alethea, sweet goddess, bringer of another man, sailing on the wind of his own bluster, a fleet of sails of bobbing bombast. Lacus uncoils me back, loosening the tension, drifting my soul slack, sending me home to my home shore, to the first of my menstrual moons, and a feast with the dead. Androgeus, ripped flesh, his silenced roar, milk-painted face, Pontia bears witness to the slip of his spirit as he falters between worlds, waiting for the whispered breath release. Men weep, irrigating their fears with wine. My feet drum step to the rhythm of my heart. Red souls kick up dust, calling Anisidon, Earthshaker, return Androgeus, most beloved brother, open your secret chamber to the underworld where Glaucus resides. Goat King impedes my dance, turning, twisting my path. Demon blood awakens, snaking my body sweat, shaking my budding breasts. Cistern trembling draws vast open space for the Minotaur. Dark, primordial king of the starry night. The beast's shadow herds my sandstorm thoughts, oiling my thighs. Fleet-footed precognition, I slip his grasp, his breath dances upon my cheek. Practice steps, draw, slow, step, dead, spirit, step, spiral, step, slow. His crescent crown aligns, penetrating my visioning. The full goddess rides high. She calls my name. Her winged star axe lifts me up and over through the horned gates of the gods, cutting the cord, the knot of my childhood, opening the way for the dead, earth grounding, soul sown. I will wear my first knot with pride tomorrow.
Fantastic. Thank you, Nikki.
Yes, right. I'm going to read from my book, The Three Beasts and the Unicorns. And I'm going to read from chapter 3. Okay. The ancient fireside tales her uncle told them when they were young came back to her. Of unicorns and their magic, how a youngling unicorn could grow so fast, being tall and strong enough to defend itself in a few weeks. How a young colt could be so terrifying as to compare to the strength of 2 aurochs, and could kill a dragon from long ago. How no man or woman had ever got close to a living unicorn, except to hunt it down and take its precious enchanted horn. No unicorn had ever been tamed or touched, let alone ridden. They were too wild, too shy, too elusive, too dangerous, and too feared. Their horns were said to kill and to cure, sacred properties that held true even after taken from a dead unicorn. Her uncle had passed one around, fragile and intact, its intricate spiraling and dulled grey silver hue was no comparison to the horns on the living unicorns that Heather had met. They were alive and not dead, alive as they should be. The search party had not returned that night, and so the king had gone after them. 2 days passed until he returned with the party, and they had not found the unicorns that were taken. A sad air hung over them all. They kept to the river's edge, hidden in the long grasses. They all remained on high alert, but there was no sound or sight of the beasts. Several days passed by while Heather stayed with the unicorns. She walked with the Mayfire as he grew and grew each day, talking and learning of their ways, each exchanging stories of their cultures and customs. The sun rose and the sun set again and again. She whittled a long stick with a flint and hand-wove twine from gathered nettles, binding her hands with her scarf to avoid the stings. She gathered fruit, leaves, fresh river mussels and snails to eat, and eggs from the birds and ducks that nested near the water. But she for deer roasted over a crackling fire that her family and tribe would share. For duck, deer milk, honey, and sweetbreads that her mother made. For her own bed of furs and ferns. For the time she chased her sister with a game of shooting bears through a hollow reed. For the of her mother, the protection of her father, the warmth of fire. She hadn't lit a fire here for fear of drawing attention to where they hid. She missed home. The 7th day was drawing in when the king approached. It is time. The messenger's foal is grown enough now to follow his mother when she takes you home. Remember what I said. You must gain the trust of your elders to work with us to fight these beasts. We will not give up on the lost ones. We will find them. But it will mean us coming out of our valley and meeting with man-things. A snort of disgust. We cannot risk that if we are to be hunted again. You understand? And these beasts will not stop at unicorn blood. Heather nodded. She ran down to where the messenger and Spitfire were grazing, not able to contain her excitement. You can take me home? The messenger bowed her head, nuzzled Spitfire at her flank, and nickered. Let's go. They went quietly and cautiously through the glowing caves, ears pricked, eyes wide, nostrils flared, horns tingling. All senses alert. The unicorn's horn is highly sensitive, like a third eye. Spitfire's horn now stood the span of Heather's hand above his forehead, covered in a velvety fine hair twisting up to a fine point. Their hooves tapped on over the dusty rocky floor, out of the tunnel and into the grand chamber where the ever-changing river passed. Crossing that, they hurried on, well aware that although no trace of the beasts had been found since they attacked the herd, They were still close to Thomani's lair. And then they were outside, relieved to be through the caves. They picked up pace to a fast canter. Over hills, crossing streams, through the lowlands and oak and hazel woodlands, they were nearing home. Heather gripped the messenger's mane anxiously. She'd lost track of how many days she'd been gone, though her parents trusted her out on a trek. Being gone several days was different. She didn't know how they would react. Heather looked at the moon. Its height in the sky told her it was very early in the morning. Maybe she could sneak back to their cave without being noticed. The unicorn stayed in the shadows and she dismounted. Feeling would they believe her? Were ally and not foe? Heather stood a while looking on at her home. Good luck, neighed the messenger. Await our return. Till then, goodbye. She turned to say goodbye to the unicorns, but with a flash of their tails, they were gone. She was alone.
Thanks, Sally. Great stuff. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Janie, you're going to read from The Company.
Yes, a drama.
Okay. Yes.
It's a drama company's AGM.
Right, brilliant. So far away. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, everyone, can we take a seat? We only have 59 minutes until the yarn bombers arrive. Company's minutes as read by myself, Shirley Malcolm, chairman of the company. Item 1, my written response to the little local paper's piece on our recent production. Item 2, their subsequent replies to myself on behalf of the company. Firstly, reply from myself, Shirley Malcolm, to the editor. To the editor. From Shirley Malcolm, chairwoman of Pantossal Street Operatic Repertory. 4. I am writing concerning what I feel is unfair criticism in your recent review of our theatrical production. As our AGM is only 2 hours long, I will slip to the last page of my response. May I point out that any company can mislay a prop? This very minor omission would I feel have gone unnoticed if not for your article? Reply from editor to Shirley Malcolm, chairwoman of 4. Thank you for your extremely detailed response to our recent review. While we appreciate that, as you say, props are not the be-all and end-all to a reputable repertory company, and that, as you say on page 12, any company can mislay a prop, I do feel the omission of your missing item may not, as you state, have gone unnoticed by the audience in your production of Lady Windermere's Fan. Likewise, I feel in your previous production, the losing and subsequent replacement of a prop may not, in fact, as you claim, have escaped the audience's notice in your production of The Importance of Being Earnest, yours, blah, blah, blah. Minutes of the company. Item 1, props for revival of the company's Oscar Wilde season. Item 1, Lady Windermere's Fan. 1, buy new fan, none oscillating. Item 2, The Importance of Being Earnest. 2, buy handbag. Item 3, throw away Mavis's bag for life. Item 4, recycle old newspapers. Item 5, fire company director. There is no need for that kind of language, Gerald. Well, yes, I will be needing the keys if you're leaving the company. Yes, and the house keys. Where? Well, no, thank you, Gerald. I don't think that would be necessary. Item 6, suggestions for our showcase. The chair, that is myself, suggested Carol sing I'm Just a Girl Who Can't Say No. Carol replied, no, I don't want to do that. The company welcomes new member Geoffrey Smithers. Geoffrey comes to us with several decades' experience of professional acting, so he tells us. Item 7. The company requested that Geoffrey might like to change his line to something more consistently manageable before tonight's performance. Item 8. We would like to thank our new member Agnes for her many suggestions of upcoming productions from her extensive self-penned scripts. It was an enlightening hour and 45 minutes. Item 9. The company would like to thank Geoffrey for his invitation to his one-man production of 7 Brides for 7 Brothers. Despite Geoffrey's suggestions of reprising his one-man show, our next production will remain the Scottish play. No, Mabel, not a Taggart revival. We'll be taking on Giles's suggestion for a punk musical adaptation with the Bay City Rollers tribute band for the soundtrack. Item 9. Sally, we need to do something with Mavis's wig, and this time, Sally, maybe confiscate Mavis's cigarettes. Item 10. Yes, in retrospect, it does appear the mohawk may have been a mistake. Staying with Macbeth the punk years, the company commends Mavis's commitment and looks forward to welcoming her back once the nose piercing is no longer septic and the swelling has gone down. Item 9, Harvest Festival. This year, our festival will be taking on a contemporary theme. I've updated our hymn lyrics from We Plough the Fields and Scatter to We Plough the Fields with Tractors. Our esteemed, so they tell us, local paper will be returning. Can we please make sure we have the groceries and bread this year? I feel anybody can forget the odd item, like bread, milk. Yes, yes, Harold, I think we get the idea, thank you. They have expressed that if they have to return twice again this year, well, they made a quite unnecessary remark regarding Lady Windermere's plan and a rather creative suggestion as to where we could put it if they have to return for another photo shoot for another harvestless festival. Item 10. In retrospect, having learnt of Clara's chlorophobia, perhaps the visit from the travelling circus may not have been the best idea. Although she did impress the acrobatics team, I thought she had a fear of heights, but the minute that cloud appeared, she leapt onto the trampoline. She really did get quite a spin on her. Who was to know the pyrotechnics were waiting in the wings? The circus had put in a claim to the company for the following items. Item 1, a red nose. Item 2, a trapeze and net. Item 3, a tent. The company wishes Centurion Circus a speedy recovery, and despite their little joke about a restraining order, such a sense of humour, the company look forward to visiting them on their return to work next year.
Thank you, Shani.
Good evening. Christmas Carol on a Planetary Scale, or Three Christmas Spirits Make Plans That Are Only a Little Desperate, or How Future Finds a Moon Base Named Tiddlytown. He's late again. The spirit of Christmas past gazed into the timeless snowstorm that surrounded their meeting place. Christmas Future's metallic mask maintained its habitual silence. They were polishing their nails. The spirit of Christmas present materialized with a pop. Bring back global warming, he shivered dramatically. Only joking, I remember last year's project, and 2005's, and 1997's, and her voice faded out. Christmas past, didn't want to think about the failures. We should have stayed small, said present. Persuading a miser to improve his neighbourhood, easy. Saving all humanity, that's a stretch. Past needed to assert her usual optimism. The 3-dream process is a proven technique, she said. Now, meeting convened. Present, report on the current options, please. You pulled a face. Toughy this year. Only 2 candidates, Past said. How about Ms. A for the moonshot? Washout, ex-pop star, recluse with 12 cats and some canny investments. All those tweets about the moon? The local pub's called the Half Moon, and she objects to the noise of beer deliveries. Past sighed. Mars, then, and the second candidate, Mr. B, is genuinely interested in the red planet. Rich, inherited $1 billion, hasn't spent any yet, but he's a conspiracy theorist, doesn't believe the moon landings. No, conversely, he believes in the War of the Worlds is true. What? Martian invaders? Yeah, big cover-up by the Victorians, supposedly. Apart from H.G. Wells. All 3 slumped. No logic would persuade such a character. The snowstorm swirled silently. Wondering if it was worth going on with the agenda, Past looked at Future, who was responsible for the next item. Future screwed the lid onto the brasso, then stood up. With a flick of a shining finger, they opened a holographic image in midair. Then another, and another, dozens, hundreds. Each showed a red, rocky sphere. Like magic, Past murmured, admiring the display. But every Mars was empty, no lights, buildings, or fields. Future wiped the images away, began anew. This sphere was silver grey, cratered, empty, empty, many empty moons. Then one with lights, domed townships, rails crisscrossing the regolith. Future spoke, their synthetic voice like the jingle of sleigh bells. We find several hundred futures with moon colonies. Past stared at the last globe, hope flickering within her. Expand that one, she pointed. The domes have signs on them. The other 2 looked confused, so she explained. Major benefactors can name places they funded. 12 cats, you said? 12 names right there. Thank you.
This one is called
Thank you.
Performance Poet Fears, and it's about all the things that you worry about before you do something like this. I'm going to step on stage, mind goes blank, fall down a hidden old trapdoor, no audience or massive crowd, outbreak of a nuclear war. Just as I muster courage up, a pandemic hits, I shield indoors. Luckily, find online stuff to get my fix, and who knows, applause. But mic doesn't work, Wi-Fi goes, the bugbear of a gig online. The laptop decides to restart now. Oh heck, I'm running out of time. Tech back on track, I start again. Turn on camera and assume my stance. Realise my washing line's in shot and everyone can see my pants. Glance at my notes, decide in panic, this poem really needs a tweak. Open my mouth, no sound comes out, simply forgotten how to speak. Nerves get to me, affect my lungs, and mid-flow I can't help but cough. It takes so long to catch my breath, the audience has buggered off. If you're still there, poem number 2 is called A Cow's Tale. Why did the cow jump over the moon? Could it have been what she really intended? Or did she perhaps mean to just leap the gate and fantastically overextended? And how do you think she was feeling when she realised she was leaving the earth? And how do you reckon the other cows did except give her a really wide berth? We know her friends were of little help. The little dog laughed and made quite a din. The dish and the spoon, they just scarpered whilst the cat played her old violin. But what do you think happened to her milk as she ascended right into the skies? Did it curdle, go off, turn to milkshake, or magically self-pasteurise? These things I question about Daisy. Can't see them just as a done deal. It's all very well chanting nursery rhymes. You've got to stop, ask yourself how she feels. I mean, Armstrong and Aldrin get all the press. And yes, they did great, so that's fine. But really, when you stop and consider an astronaut who is bovine. So next time you look out your window and see the moon in the dark sky, take a moment to consider our Daisy. Don't accept it, just ask yourself why. And finally, this one's about good old Humpty Dumpty and is called Stop Egging Me On. So I'm sitting on this wall, getting my kicks on some bricks, just humming to myself and looking at the sky. Well, I don't know quite what happened, officer. 1 minute, I'm daydreaming of the future Mrs. Dumpty, lovely curves, smooth skin, Michelle. And the next, I'm on the floor in 12 pieces, maybe more. I don't know what I came here for. Not sure how to begin. I feel raw. They said I was smashed, but I'd not touched a drop. Been sober now 6 years. Me and 5 mates made a pact to stick together, 6 of us. Anyway, they accused me of being drunk or high as a kite. I said, no, mate, that ain't right. I'm just free-ranging. I'm not the one who called the king's horses and men, supposedly to put me together again. You accuse me of being cracked, but I'm fine. You're the ones who called royal staff instead of 999. Ugh, the horse. Oh, of course. That's really going to help. I'd shake my head, but I'd have to relocate it first. As you scramble to my rescue, tell yourself this. Next time there's an accident, call the paramedics rather than trooping the colour. And when you see an egg in bits on the pavement, don't be a chicken or accuse him of battery. It makes my blood boil. Thank you.